Picture the moment you close the front door. You're already thinking about where you're going, what you need to do, whether you remembered your keys. The dog is on the other side of that door, and within seconds you've mentally moved on. But here's what nobody tells you. For the next several hours, your home doesn't become an empty space. It becomes something your dog actively reads, room by room, surface by surface, in a way that most owners have never considered, and behavioral scientists only recently began to document properly. We tend to imagine our dogs waiting, sitting by the door, staring at the wall, frozen in a kind of suspended patience until we return. Some do. But what the evidence actually shows about what happens inside that house, to your dog's body, their brain, and the way they move through the space you share, is far stranger and far more revealing than waiting. The reason we get this wrong isn't that we don't care. It's that we're using the wrong model entirely. We imagine our dogs experiencing absence the way we would, consciously, narratively, with a sense of time passing. But a dog's relationship with an empty house is built from completely different materials, and once you understand what those are, you can't unsee it. The first thing that happens after you leave isn't what most people expect. It isn't stillness, and it isn't distress. For the majority of dogs, the first 10 to 15 minutes are a period of active environmental investigation. And the primary tool is scent. Dogs have an olfactory system estimated to be between 10,000 and 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's. And they use it the way we use vision, to construct a detailed picture of the world around them. When you leave a room, you don't disappear from it. You leave behind a scent trail that your dog can read with considerable precision. Where you stood, how long, which direction you moved, and crucially, how recently. In the minutes after departure, many dogs move through the house tracing exactly this. Not searching in a distressed way, but reading the way you might scan a room you've just walked into. They are building a picture of where you were, and from that, an estimate of when you might return. Each surface you touched, each chair you sat in, each doorway you passed through carries a different concentration, a different age. To your dog, the house is not an empty space. It is a detailed, layered record of your presence, and they are reading every page of it. This is where the science introduces something that most owners find genuinely surprising. Dogs have a measurable sense of time. Not a clock, exactly, but a biological mechanism tied to the decay rate of scent. As the hours pass and your scent concentration in the house gradually fades, your dog's behavior shifts in ways that correspond with that fading. Researchers studying canine time perception found that dogs showed distinctly more excited greeting behavior after longer absences. But more than that, their anticipatory behavior, the restlessness and door watching that builds before a return, tended to intensify as your scent reached a certain threshold of faintness. They aren't counting hours. They are reading the chemical clock that your presence leaves behind. When your scent drops below a certain concentration, something in their nervous system begins to orient toward the door. They know you're coming back not because they can tell time, but because the house is telling them your scent is almost gone. And gone scent has historically meant almost return. Here's the part that reframes everything about how we talk about dogs being fine alone. Sleep is one of the most reliable indicators of a dog's emotional state during your absence, and it's deeply misunderstood. Dogs sleep a lot, between 12 and 14 hours a day on average, and unsupervised camera studies consistently show that dogs left alone do spend a significant portion of that time asleep. On the surface, this looks like contentment, but sleep quality is not the same as sleep quantity, and the two diverge significantly under stress. A dog experiencing chronic low-level anxiety doesn't sleep less. They sleep differently. They enter lighter sleep stages more frequently, spend less time in the deep, slow-wave sleep where genuine physiological restoration happens, and startle more easily from rest. There's a measurable EEG signature to this. Researchers studying canine sleep architecture in stressed versus relaxed dogs found clear differences in the ratio of REM to non-REM sleep and in how frequently dogs in anxious states return to wakefulness. The dog on your sofa, who appears to be peacefully sleeping through your absence, may be accumulating fatigue rather than recovering from it. The body is resting. The nervous system isn't. And the distinction between those two things is invisible from the outside. Something cameras have captured repeatedly, and that rarely makes it into popular discussions about dog behavior, is what happens in the 30 to 45 minutes before you come home. Long before your car turns into the street, long before any sound or smell of your approach should be detectable, many dogs begin to change. They shift from wherever they've been resting, move closer to the entry point of the house, and enter a state of low-level alertness, ears up, posture elevated slightly, attention directed outward. For years, this was attributed to hearing, the dog picking up the sound of your specific engine or footsteps at a distance. But researchers testing this under controlled conditions, using different cars, different routes, and return times the owner didn't know in advance, found that the anticipatory behavior still occurred. The leading hypothesis is olfactory, air currents carrying the earliest detectable traces of your approach, processed by a system sensitive enough to register concentrations that instruments struggle to measure. Your dog may know you're coming home before you've turned onto your road. There's a spatial dimension to all of this that tends to go completely unnoticed. Dogs don't distribute themselves randomly through an empty house. They position themselves according to a logic that researchers have only recently started mapping, and it's not about comfort or habit as much as owners assume. Studies using GPS trackers on dogs in the home found that alone time positioning clusters heavily around two types of locations: spots that carry the highest concentration of the owner's scent, typically their bed, their chair, the floor near where they most often sit, and spots with sight lines or sound access to the primary entry point. The dog isn't choosing the softest surface. They're positioning themselves at the intersection of your most concentrated presence and the most likely vector of your return. They are, in a very literal sense, organizing their physical space around the fact of you, even when you aren't there. Now here's the finding that changes how you think about the dog you come home to. Most owners read the greeting, the excitement, the spinning, the frantic energy at the door as happiness, and it is. But it's also something else that behavioral researchers have documented carefully: a physiological reset. During the hours alone, even in dogs without diagnosable separation anxiety, cortisol levels rise above their baseline and stay elevated. The greeting isn't just an expression of joy at your return. It is, measurably, the moment the dog's stress hormones begin to fall. The physical contact, the vocalizing, the close proximity. These are not performance. They are the nervous system beginning to regulate, using your presence as the mechanism. This is why the quality of your return matters more than most owners realize. A distracted homecoming, phone in hand, barely acknowledging the dog, doesn't provide the same regulatory signal as one where you actually pause, make contact, and allow the reunion to land. Your dog isn't asking for much in that moment. They're asking for enough of your presence to begin the process of coming down, which means the dog you come home to is not simply happy to see you. They are, in a biological sense, recovering from your absence, and they're using you to do it. All of this builds towards something that the research keeps returning to, from multiple directions and through multiple methodologies, and it is this: the quality of a dog's experience alone is determined almost entirely by what they've been taught to expect about return. Not toys, not background noise, not the size of the house. The single most powerful variable is the accumulated history of what has happened after the door opened again. Dogs whose owners have returned consistently, calmly, and without the arrival becoming an emotionally volatile event, build what researchers call a predictive safety model, an internal architecture built from repetition, that the closed door is not a permanent state, that the scent will fade and then you will appear, and the world will reorganize itself around your presence again. Dogs who haven't built that model, through inconsistent returns, through arrivals that became tense or punishing, through an absence history that felt unpredictable, spend their alone time not resting between your departures, but bracing for an outcome they cannot predict. The house is the same. The dog inside it is experiencing something entirely different. What all of this adds up to is something quietly profound. Your dog doesn't experience your absence as a gap in their day. They experience it as an active, sensory, emotionally weighted state, one they navigate using tools we're only beginning to measure and understand. The scent map they read, the chemical clock they track, the position they choose in the house, the moment they begin to orient toward the door before you've even turned the corner. All of it is evidence of a mind that has organized itself at a very deep level around the fact of you. They are not waiting in the way we picture it. They are living in the space between your departures and your returns, and what that space feels like to them is shaped, more than anything else, by what you've built together. Which raises one more question worth sitting with. Because what you feed that dog while you're with them shapes the body and brain that endures when you're not. That's exactly what we explore next. 10 human foods? Dogs actually need more than dog food. Less cost, more health.